Welcome back to Season 2, Episode 2 of 50 Shades of Shilamida, where it gets to be that easy. So today I was going to go write a post, which I probably still will, and the post was going to be about the ladies out there not settling, and of course the men too who are listening to this. But I really have been thinking about how much I am in love with my husband and this life that we've created and the growth that we've been through together. And the real turning point for me and my husband was the day where he really saw me. It was the first time, and we're talking, this is 9.5 years into our relationship. And we're laying in our bed, and I was probably having a moment, and he said to me, "You are so mature sometimes, and then you're like a 3-year-old." And it just really anchored something inside of me, because the truth is that I've really grown up with my husband. My husband has nurtured me, he has loved me, he has been there for me in a way that I have never felt from another adult human. And in that, I was able to grow up. Now, at first in our relationship, I was a spoiled brat. And that was my inner child, right? Or my baby goddess who was acting up. And so that day that he saw me, I made the decision in that day that I no longer wanted to be that little girl. I wanted to be an adult woman. I wanted to grow up, and I wanted to be the best partner and wife that I could be. And we were not married at this point. I think that we might have been engaged. Our engagement also changed everything for me. My husband and I were together 9.5 years. Yeah, I think at the 9.5 year marker, he proposed to me on New Year's Eve on 2022, because we ended up getting married that year. And, or was it 2021 that we got? Oh, no. We got engaged on 2020. We got engaged 2020. Right. So it was, yeah. Okay. We're going to have to go back to the facts on that. But anyway, my point in all of this is that I know that there's women out there who are not in good relationships, who are not treating themselves the way they should be treated, who are, in places that they really shouldn't be. And I think about it a lot, how in my past relationship, I used to have to beg for sex. I used to have to beg for attention. My ex would go out at night and not tell me where he was going, and I would call him and text him and he wouldn't respond. My husband would never do something like that to me. And that's why I've become who I am, because I'm able to live in a safe place. In that relationship, I was not safe, but I thought that I was so in love, because at that point with that man, that's the most amount of love that I had ever received. And so I settled for what I was getting instead of what I deserved. And listen, the work that I needed to do in order to attract my husband, I worked at myself so hard. When my ex and I broke up, I was probably around 210 pounds. I really struggled with losing the weight at that point in my life. I was an event planner, but I hated it. It gave me anxiety. I did not want to go to things because I was always missing things because of it. And so I really needed a shift in my life, but I was so miserable in my relationship. I didn't know how to move forward. And I was afraid. I was a mom at that point. I did not know how I was going to survive. I wasn't really working that much. I had gigs here and there. And I think I was also doing an MLM at the time called Tastefully Simple. I think I started that when I was pregnant with Mikey. And so getting out of that relationship was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And so I know that you're listening to this and now it seems like so easy, right? My life in comparison to yours, but you can't compare to this point in my life because there was a time in my life that I was frightened for my life. And I did not know how to get out of it until there was a really tumultuous night that showed me that it was now or never. And so I pulled the trigger, I got out, and I went after my dreams. I started doing the things that I could never have done with him. So the first thing I ended up doing was going to massage school. My ex would have never let me do that. We had spoken about it before, but I knew that I wanted to be a healer of some sort, and I loved to touch. And so 3 weeks into massage school, I was like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. I'm not going to do this the rest of my life. And in the midst of massage school, I heard the word acupuncture for the first time. I didn't even know what that was. And then the journey led me into being an acupuncturist. It was literally a spiritual journey where I asked God, source, universe, and at that point, it was probably universe because I did not accept God as God is the creator, the co-creator, my co-creator. God is my sugar daddy. God is my provider. I love God, but back then, I didn't understand this kind of love for God. I only knew the God that the different religions were telling me existed, and I just couldn't connect with any of those. And so I have to tell you, when I started praying and thanking God instead of the universe, stuff started manifesting so much faster than ever before. And so it was during acupuncture school that I met my husband, but going to acupuncture school is one of the scariest decisions of my life because it was like a $55,000 commitment on top of the $8,000 commitment I had just made for massage school. And my track record was not very good in completing things. Who can relate to this, where you buy a course or you start a program and you drop out or you don't go all in? And so in the midst of going to acupuncture school, I show up to acupuncture school as the unhealthiest person alive. And now I needed to change my whole entire being in order to become the woman that I became today, right? So now I preach to you about not eating fast food, reading all your ingredients, not eating food dye, not vaccinating. But back then I showed up to the first day of acupuncture school with a Ziploc full of different kinds of food dye, corn syrup, candy from the dollar store. So here I was like doing something nice and kind. I was giving in the only way I knew how, and people thought I was legit crazy. And that was a good time. And so that learning was some of the hardest I ever had to go through, like the food awakenings, the product awakenings, like all of the things in your life that you're doing that you grew up with may or may not be killing you, literally. And that's how I was surrounded. I didn't research anything. I just used things that other people told me were good to use. And I ate things that were convenient and cheap, right? Because my story is from food stamps to first class. So there was a point where I was on food stamps. And getting to the point of manifesting my husband took all of those risks. And then on top of those risks, I needed to fall in love with myself. And so falling in love with myself was so hard. I was so fat. I hated the way that I looked. I hated my life. I hated what I had done to myself. But I was determined to get myself out of it. And so one of the things that I did that really put me on the trajectory is when I was 30 years old, I went and got a breast reduction, and it changed my whole entire being. And it actually like set me on course to lose the weight. And I don't remember if I was already in acupuncture school. No, I had done the surgery right before acupuncture school. So I had done the surgery, and then in acupuncture school, I learned that I needed to be gluten-free, dairy-free, all the things. And I really started to shift and change my life. And then I manifested the produce guy, right? One of the first gifts that I asked Ben Lover to buy for me was a Vitamixer. And he was like, he called me up. He was like, do you know that this is a $500 blender you asked me to buy you? I said, no, I just asked Facebook and they told me that's what I should get. And so I ended up juicing when we first got together, and just like little by little, everything started to compound. And when I first met Ben Lover, like for sure, my husband is like a genuinely kind-hearted, generous, loving human being, but he's become who he is by being with me, and I've become who I am by being with him. And in the beginning of our relationship, it very much was me growing up with him. You know, here was this older man. He was 14 and a half years older than me. I was 31 years old. I was the mother to a 4-year-old. I felt like I was a child raising a child. And here was this man who like fell in love with me so deeply. And it's evolved into the most beautiful love of all time. But I have to tell you guys, there were years where I didn't think that we were going to make it. There were years that it was so hard. There were years that we didn't sleep in the same bed together. And so getting to this point of this love, of this depth, of this beautiful life that we have co-created with each other, with God, with the principles that I teach every day, it's because I am in the work every single day. And when he comes home, I bring him into the work with me, and he's willing to do it. Because when he doesn't do it, then we very much disalign, and those are just really hard days to live through, because it's not hunky-dory here all the time, you know? Like in the online perception, like I just talk about the love, right? Like, but you don't get to hear about the nights that we don't sleep in the same bed together, or that the days that we don't, barely speak because we can't stand being in the same room with each other. I mean, it happens. And especially when you're awakening in spirituality, or you're doing the spiritual work like day in and day out, like we're moving through levels. I'm moving through massive levels every single day, becoming who I am becoming. And so he loves the woman that I am becoming, like I am. Like today he was sitting with me. He was like, you are a true goddess. He's like, your body, the way that you make love to me, like, the way that you mother our children, like he just like randomly sat down and started saying those things to me, and it's just so beautiful to hear, because I do work hard on myself. And there was a time that I was eating packages of Oreo cookies and I couldn't get off my couch. So if you're listening to this and you're like, fuck off, Shill, like not everybody's got the time like you and the discipline like you and all the things, right? Stop making up the shit in your head, because if you would have known the girl that lived on Sperber Road in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, I was a hot freaking mess. This is day in and day out discipline. This is why I run a group called Gratitude 365, because you have to show up intentionally for yourself every freaking day. If you're not doing it every day, then you're on the roller coaster of life, because you can only ride the high so high if you're not in the work, because the lows will take you so fucking low. That's those of you that are living in depression and anxiety. When you're in the work every day, you don't get kiltered that way. You're not going from high to low. You're living in duality. You're in the in-between. You're able to be happy one minute, then you're able to cry the next minute, and you're able to come back to your happy 10 minutes later. Like, it happens that fast. When I was the girl on Spurber Road, when I was the girl that met my husband, like, I had one foot out the door. I had major abandonment issues. And it's still something I work on today, but with him, I'm secure. But it took 9.5 years. It took the day where he said to me out loud, like, you are so wise, you're so mature. And then you're like a 3-year-old. And I love you. And he loves me at my worst. When I'm that tantrum child, he loves the fuck out of me, because that's what I needed my mother to do. That's what I needed my father to do. And you know what? My father, I think he did do that for me. But I have to tell you, my father has been gone so long that I don't remember. And the mommy wounds that I had to live through were so big, so deep, and that shit just keeps coming up. It's like the work of my lifetime, because this is what happens. When you do this work, you climb levels, and every level you repeat the same stories over and over again until you learn the lesson. And then the test becomes a moment of wisdom, not fired emotion. And then you get to go to the next level. But at every level, you feel like you're starting over. But you're starting over at a different level. Like, I really have anchored in this week, like, everything I have ever prayed for is mine. Like, every single thing that I have in my life is manifested. Everything. From my husband to my children to the house that I live in, like, everything is manifested. And I understand how to do it. I understand the energetics of it. I teach people how to do it every single day. And it's the most incredible gift of all time. And it's the love of my husband that has anchored that. So if you're living in a relationship right now where you don't feel this kind of love, this kind of joy, this kind of happiness every single day, then there's something better out there for you. And you just have to take the leap and know that for yourself. Whether you have kids, I was a single mom. I did it. I left my ex when my son was 18 months. I didn't meet Benjamin until he was like 4 years old. I think it was, right after his 4th birthday. And so for 2.5 years, I loved the fuck out of myself. I did mirror work. I went to different workshops. I went on a retreat. Oh my gosh, the retreat that I went on then. I went to yoga classes. Like, I was doing the work. When you're watching my life now, know and understand, I have been submerged in this work since I was 23 years old. Now, obviously, back then, I wasn't doing it like I am now. Now, there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss. There is not a day that goes by that I don't miss. Then there were many days that went by that I missed. And then I was drinking and I was fucked up and I was doing all the things, right? Like, the fact that I've not drank alcohol in the last 2 years, it is mind-blowing for me, like completely mind-blowing for me. I was like the 3 bottle of champagne, like dance on the table kind of girl. And guess what? I can still dance on the tables, but like, I'm kind of more tired. I'm not gonna lie, but I just love it. I love myself now completely. I am whole. This is the greatest love of all time. I am raising the most emotionally intelligent children. It is like, I can't even explain it to you. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And every single thing I do, every single like trip that I take, retreat that I host, retreat that I'm a part of, client that I help, every single thing that I do is rooted in love, is rooted in abundance, is rooted in overflow, in gratitude. It's like, it's so magnificent. And there was a time in my life where I hated it all, where I hated the man that I was with, where I hated myself. And so it gets to be this easy. It gets to be this good. And the best is yet to come. I haven't even lived the best of it. That's the mantra. That's the knowing. That is the truth. That it's so good, this life, when you're able to anchor in that knowing and you start looking at life in totally different ways. And I really invite you to go check out one of my books, to join Gratitude 365, to find me on social media and get into my world every day. Start practicing gratitude every single day. I will guide you to a happier, healthier, more fulfilled life, guaranteed. Just do the work every day. I'm doing the work every day. Come do the work every day with me. I love you so much. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this. Go get rid of that man. Start a fresh new life. I love you. See you soon.